Hi, I'm John. This is my show, A Sports Reckoning. So, this is a live stream that took place last night on the YouTuber's page, Livin with LT. And then, so that's him up in the top left, then AIH Sports in the top right, and then in the bottom there's a Hobby Shark, and then also on the panel was Steve Splenda. Splenda Steve, one of those like that, whatever, it's that guy. He was also on the panel with them too, most of the time. And but so then they came to this part here. This is like towards the end of the thing. I was watching it. It's one of these things like I'll keep it on and I'll listen to it. And if I don't catch these things while they're going, then I'll usually play them the next day. It's like one of these things I'll just play them like while I'm doing work around the house and stuff, right? And it's one of those things with, it's like one of those little tricks. If you watch other people's stuff, so one of those ways you can avoid commercials, if you're just listening to the thing, like if you don't need to actually watch it, because like if people are showing cards and there's actually cards I want to watch, see, or something like that. But if people are just talking, then what you could do is you put this page on and you let it play, then you open up another page on YouTube, and you don't let that, or you can let it play and just turn the volume down, whatever. But usually what will happen is somehow that counters the commercial thing, that the YouTube knows that you're not guaranteed to be watching that, and that somehow that won't trigger the commercial. Somehow I've learned that you can avoid commercials that way, and that's good with things where you just listen to them. And I do a lot of work around the house. I'm always moving around and stuff, right? So I'll just be listening to things like this and stuff, right? So last night I was listening to this, so I would catch most of it. I know that there's probably like, it was almost 3.5 hours, this thing. So I guaranteed I missed at least an hour of it because I was still working. I'm always working around the house doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure I missed at least an hour of it and stuff, right? But so I'll catch things here and there and stuff. And so then they came to a part there where they started talking about me. Now, so I caught this, and I did see it last night. So I do have an idea of some of the things, but I haven't went back and watched it. I just came to it here, and so I found the part where they start talking about me here. So it's like, okay, well, you look at, I'll go ahead and just play it, and then I'll just react to it. Like I'll stop it and give some commentary to like with the things that they're saying and stuff as we go on and stuff, right? So the other thing is that the guy, the Hobby Shark at the bottom, I don't really know that guy. And I think he had put a comment on my page recently, and then I went to his page to see, and I don't think he really has a YouTube page, so it's one of these things that I didn't know. Like, when people come and they make a comment, like, it was a video I'd made about AIH, or not about AIH, about Great Curator, and I think he was supporting the video I'd made, but, I don't know, like, people do things in the weird ways and stuff, and so you have to be careful and stuff of who you're dealing with, and, like, if people come over and they support you, I'm not just instantly going to be like, you're my buddy. Oh, you're it's like one of those things like if you're an enemy, of my enemy, then you're a friend of mine, something, whatever, however that works and stuff, right? But I don't really adhere to that kind of stuff and shit, right? But so anyways, I was listening to him on this one. I got to actually listen to him a lot and stuff. And so the guy's actually interesting. I kind of actually like the dude. And, I can't even tell you how much I welcome the people. It's like he was saying the thing about that he knows a lot about music. He's been around it, something like that. And it's like, I transition this into the Michael Jackson, right? Because that's my thing about my Michael Jackson thing is that Michael Jackson's real parents are Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, and they're both still alive, right? And then even Berry Gordy's still alive, which I really like him to be alive when this stuff happens, but he's like in his 90s, and she's old and shit, right? And, like Catherine Jackson, she's not important to the story. I don't really need her. I don't need to get things from her. It's the Diana stuff. And then the rest of the Jacksons, you can get their story as it goes and stuff. But the Diana and Smokey is the thing. They're still alive. And I'm going as hard as I can when I go after people and stuff. It's like, and I try and tell them, it's like, dude, Diana and Smokey are alive. Are we really going to risk losing the chance of getting the true story right from the horse's mouth of what happened to Michael, how this actually happened, how their relationship was? All this stuff. There's just so many questions I have to ask him and stuff, how this stuff happened and stuff, right? So with like the Hobby Shark dude, it's like, dude, I'm going after people as best I can. I'm going after him. I'm doing as much as I can. But there's no doubt. With me, it's like there is no doubt that Michael is the son of Diana and Smokey. And there's no doubt that I have the evidence and I can prove it. And within the proving of that, I've exposed that Michael Jackson was telling a lot about this stuff he was telling about the experience of what was going on in his songs, that it turns out that a lot of his songs are actually about this actual experience. But the big one, I mean, there's a lot of them. The songs, you don't even know all the songs I've done so far. I've broken them down and stuff, right? But the big one is the Billie Jean. That Diana Ross is Billie Jean. I know you were saying something about it, and you were saying something that was making sense to you and stuff. And it's like, dude, when you understand, because look, I've been doing this, and I keep going after it, and I keep... That story, the Billie Jean song keeps, like, it's the gift that keeps giving. There's better interpretations, and the song keeps evolving through understandings of the lyrics and stuff. I mean, it's like, man, it is just crazy. But when you lay it down, like, just a simple thing right off the bat off the Billie Jean is like the first line of the song, right? Because he's talking about who this Billie Jean is, right? She was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene, right? She's more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. Right? And so that's not some groupie. Like, that's why I say, when you go back and you actually look at the context of the actual song, and you see that this Billie Jean, he's not talking about like just what we would know about as a groupie, right? The situation of what's taking place in that Billie Jean song, it's a different environment. But the groupie thing of what it is what's going on is that Diana Ross was a groupie going towards Smokey. When she got pregnant, when she was almost 14, when she's going after Smokey, just as Smokey Robinson hooks up with Berry Gordy in August of 1957, 1 year before Michael Jackson's born, right? So that's when Smokey meets Berry Gordy. And Smokey doesn't meet Berry Gordy at Motown. Smokey meets Berry Gordy in Brunswick Records Studio, because Berry Gordy's songwriter for Jackie Wilson, and Jackie Wilson is Smokey Robinson's favorite artist. So Smokey Robinson knows the name Berry Gordy because he looks at the songwriter, because Smokey Robinson's a songwriter. So Smokey Robinson knows this name, Berry Gordy, as being the songwriter of his favorite artist, Jackie Wilson, but he's never met Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy's not Berry Gordy of Motown. He's just Berry Gordy, a guy that's written some songs for Jackie Wilson at that time. And so Smokey Robinson does the audition at Brunswick. He gets turned down. And this is in August of 57. It's super well documented. There's no, like I said about proving this stuff, I can prove it with hardcore documentation. No doubt about it. This stuff's super well documented. And then, so Smokey gets turned down at Brunswick. This is the real story. And Berry Gordy, though, he's in that spot where he's in his head, he's got the vision of building a record company, right? But he's not done it yet. But he's working in the business. He's hanging around the record company, right? Writing songs. He's learning the business. He actually has talent himself as a songwriter. Berry Gordy actually does have talent, right? So he sees Smokey Robinson, and he sees a guy. He's like right about 18 years old. He's writing his own songs. He's got his own band. He's got the whole thing, right? And so when Berry Gordy's looking at what he needs, he sees Smokey, and he sees all of it, right? So Berry goes after Smokey, and that's how that relationship develops right there, right? But so when Smokey goes back to the neighborhood, Diana lives just 3 doors down, and Diana Ross is also best friends with Smokey Robinson's niece, Sharon Burston, who lives in Smokey Robinson's house because Smokey Robinson's mother died when Smokey Robinson was 10 years old. Smokey Robinson's oldest sister moved in and took care of Smokey, and so she would have been 27 because she was 17 years older than Smokey at that time. So she was 27, so she had children of her own, and one of her own children happened to be the same age as Diana, and so Diana Ross, because Diana Ross is a little younger than Smokey, but Diana's best friends with Smokey Robinson's niece, who lives in Smokey Robinson's house. So Diana's always staying in Smokey Robinson's house. So when Smokey Robinson comes home and he's like, I met this guy, Berry Gordy. It's not Berry Gordy Motown. That's what I try to emphasize so much that Michael Jackson's birth happened right at the development stages of Motown. It's in the development stages. They haven't even gotten to, like right when they give Michael away, in August 29th of 1958, that's when Michael Jackson's born. And then it's like right after that, that's when you see that everything really, really starts happening. But they started it, it's like I said, it was August of 57 is when they meet, they start working together. That's when it starts happening. They're developing and stuff. And it's right after they give Michael away, you see that everything starts happening. And then like that's when Diana, then she starts to build her group right after that. Everything starts happening, really moving in motion right after they give Michael away. Then everything is like, it's like full steam ahead. Here we go. And then that's when it explodes and shit. It's in 59 and shit. That's when things really start exploding and turning into Motown and stuff, right? All this stuff, right? But so Oh, so what, we see, this is what happens with my Michael Jackson story. When I start going, I have so much evidence and stuff, and so I really lost my train of thought. It's like, so why was I talking about that? And it's like, oh, because Diana Ross's Billie Jean is the Billie Jean is known as a groupie, but it was Diana Ross, and this is what the song "Dirty Diana" is about. The song "Dirty Diana" is about Diana Ross and Smokey and their relationship. It's about Michael Jackson's parents, Diana and Smokey. She's Dirty Diana, but it's about her relationship with Smokey. It's about Michael's parents. That's what that song's about. But so the Billie Jean the groupie, the reason it's connected to Diana Ross is because Diana was the original groupie going after Smokey, doing the same thing. She was doing that groupie shit. She was the one doing that groupie shit. But then she's more than just a groupie. Like it says, and I'm pretty sure this is in Dirty Diana, where it says, she waits at backstage doors for those who have prestige. They promise fortune and fame, a life that's so carefree. She's not just a groupie who there's trying to have sex with a god and shit, right? She's wanting to be a god herself. Right? She's also like got this gold digger where she wants to have achieved greatness herself. So she's more than a groupie. That's where like the Dirty Diana stuff, right? But the original, like the groupie, the original origins of the groupie, of Billie Jean, that's the original groupie, with Diana being that original groupie because she was only 13, 14 years old, and Smokey's hooking up with the record deal, making a record, and Diana sees that happening, and Diana weasels her way in there because Smokey's Claudette's in the band, The Miracles. Diana can't be in the band because Claudette's in the band. Diana can't be Smokey's girlfriend because Claudette's already Smokey's girlfriend, right? Claudette's already got all those positions taken care of. And Diana's right about to move off of the block. She's about to move off the block on her 14th birthday, is what they always say, on her 14th birthday she moved off of Belmont. And she moves into the Brewster Douglas housing projects, and then she starts to attend Cass Tech. And they always say when she starts to attend Cass Tech that they always say that she attended Cass Tech and she had a major as a seamstress. They always say her major was a seamstress. So what I did through my investigation, the way I look at that is I say no. When you actually look at that actual moment in time in history through my story, is that Diana at that moment, she's still early in her pregnancy, and they're early in their pregnancy, and just because they abandoned Michael, that doesn't mean that they've figured it out, that they're abandoning. They don't know. And so the first stages would be that you're pregnant and you're going to have the child and shit, right? Which is a thing that's happened with Aretha Franklin. She had a young baby. And Smokey Robinson and Aretha, they're also right there in the neighborhood. They grew up right there and shit, right, too. So there's some stuff, too, that I could show you with this Aretha stuff. There's some interesting stuff. There's this one really good performance and stuff. And I think it's is it the Ooh, Baby, Baby? And, yeah, it's really interesting and shit, what's going on. Oh, but there was one thing that Smokey said. That's why I brought up the Aretha. He said in the DJ Vlad interview recently, he said about Aretha. DJ Vlad had said, yeah, and Aretha got pregnant, right? And he said, well, what? She had the baby, you know? And he said, and something like, so Smokey said, well, what else could she do, right? She had no choice, right? Because that was still, back then, wasn't like there was abortion clinics everywhere and stuff, right? Back then, it's not like it was still like that and stuff, right? So that was, so Smokey had made that comment about Aretha. He had said, well, what else could she do? Right? And then, so that's the thing too, is like with Diana, it's like, so in the beginning stages, you got to figure she's pregnant, so she's thinking she's going to be a mother. And this is the thing, is through my story, I always said that no, when she enrolls into Cass Tech, she's not enrolling as to be a seamstress, because there's things about, like, her sister went there to become a doctor and stuff, right? So her sister's taking like serious education classes to become a doctor. She's taking that's a serious educational courses, why she's going to that school and shit, right? But Diana's going there. I'm saying it's like, no, Diana's not going to that school because to get an education. I'm saying through my story, I said, no, she was pregnant at that time. And she moves off the block and she transfers schools and stuff, right? And it's right at that time she's pregnant, and they're working it out, because they're working out how they're going to figure out how she's going to be a mother, and they're working it out and shit, right? And when she enrolls in school, I was always saying that no, she was enrolled in that school because she was pregnant, and the whole history of Diana Ross says she enrolled in that school because she was learning seamstress skills, because to learn fashion design, right? But I was saying no, the seamstress skills. I was always saying no, the seamstress skills. That's skills that you would learn as being a mother, right? And then what happens is it's Diana Ross on Inside the Actor Studio, an interview that she did on Inside the Actors Studio, and on that one, that's where she said the guy's talking to her about Cast Tech and shit, and she says, yeah, I enrolled in Cast Tech for seamstress skills or for fashion. She says, oh, but actually in the beginning it was actually home economics. That's what she said. She says, no, but in the beginning it was actually home economics. That was her field of study when she actually enrolled, because like I said, she wasn't enrolling into the school because she was a scholarly person like her sister was and shit, right? She was enrolling because she was pregnant, and she was going to that school because what else can she do? She's pregnant. She's got to go to the school to learn a skill as what would be a mother's skill to learn. And that's what I was saying, that the sewing was the side effect, that came off of that, the spin-off thing, whatever, right? The study that she was going there was home economics. That was the field of study that she was going because she was pregnant. She had to learn home economic skills as being a young mother, right? And then that, like I said, that happened before. I was saying no, she was going there because she's pregnant. Then it comes out later that I find the evidence that says that yes, she went there originally under the home economics educational courses, right? And then she gives the kid away. Now she's still at the school, and Berry Gordy's not just giving her a record contract till she turns 18. They don't want kids, and this is the thing that goes to, like I said, this is where the story goes. And when you get to the Jacksons, would Berry Gordy have ever signed the Jackson 5? There's a thing, it's like he never ever would have signed. Maybe he would have signed Michael. It would have been the only option for him. Because the other thing is, Berry Gordy's got the house band at Motown, right? And see, like on the first album and stuff, the Jacksons don't write any of the songs, so he doesn't need what are they actually doing, right? And you got to think of with Berry Gordy, he's got to be thinking about this whole family of kids. I've got to give them schooling, you know. They've got to have tutors. They've got to have there's different rules with the kids when you go on tour with them and stuff, right? You're talking about minors and stuff, right? Different laws and stuff, right? And Berry Gordy's already dealt with all of that with Stevie Wonder. He's already had to deal with all of that stuff with Stevie, and it didn't really flourish with Stevie Wonder. Like the gimmick of the young Stevie Wonder, it got some attention, and there was a gimmick there and with stuff, but Stevie didn't flourish as an artist. He showed all the gifts as an artist when he was young, but he didn't flourish as an artist until he developed as a songwriter, until he got older and shit, right? So Berry Gordy had already seen all of this, and he experienced it with Stevie Wonder and shit, right? So why is he going to take a chance on the Jacksons, who's he doesn't need the Jacksons. It's not like they're gifted musicians. Okay, the gifted one is Michael. Michael's got the gifted talent. So the one that he would actually sign would have been Michael and shit, right? So like I said, I get always off track on this stuff. It's like, because I could just keep going on and on and on. I wanted to make this video talking about your video, but that's what happens when I start talking about Michael Jackson shit. It's like, it's hard to stop and shit, right? Because I got so much evidence. I want to just show you. I want to tell you about it and shit, right? But let's get back into this shit here. I don't even know. I haven't even started this yet, have I? Shit. Oh, fuck, I went rambling. I haven't even started this goddamn thing yet. I don't even know how to make it through this video.
Well, your good friend Reckoning, he was on a warpath. And he didn't have that. I like his stuff. He's extreme. I know about the Michael Jackson story and all that stuff. But when he calls out people, he didn't play, man. Like, that dude went hard.
Okay, it's like scream therapy and shit, right? So it's like, I got a lot of stress and shit, right? And I don't got a lot of outlets to take out my stress and shit, right? And then right now I'm under the influence of marijuana and shit, right? So I'm on a binge. One of the reasons my time is so fucking limited, and so what happened when I went on this binge of smoking, I'm about out of weed. I ended up smoking, so it's just like over the last month, and so ended up smoking fucking 3 ounces and shit. And this was one of my problems is like when you don't smoke for a while, then you smoke, it really lasts a long time, but then it's just after a week, I'm instantly right back into where I'm heavy smoking from morning to night. Smoking all fucking day, smoking pretty fucking heavy and shit, right? And so I ended up smoking a lot of weed and shit, right? So really quick, like I said, so I fucking, boom, knocked down fucking 3 ounces and shit, right? And, but so, when I'm sober, like one of those, like, there's like little, a lot of times I'll write stuff or whatever. I don't really remember songs and shit, right? Just like freestyle stuff, and then it's like you do it and it's gone and shit, right? But there's just always one little line that I always remember to shit because it's just so telling of like the person I am, right? So it's like little rap line and shit, right? So it's like so I said, smoke weed since I'm 13. Take it away, I get real mean. Old school, keep it straight on the triple beam. I'm a cool head, red-eyed dogs knows what I mean. But so I smoke weed since I'm 13. Take it away, I get real mean. That's how it is. It's like, so I'm more laid back and shit, right? When I'm smoking weed and shit, right? And then it's like, you take it away, I get real mean and shit. You take it away, I get real fucking mean and shit, right? So that's what I do. It's like that scream therapy. It's like taking out some aggression. Since I don't have the weed to calm me down and shit, right? And to balance my fucking system out and shit, right? Since I don't have the weed to do that for me and shit, right? Because I'm most of the time I'm sober and shit now, right? Which I'm old. I actually enjoy being sober. I'd rather be sober most of the time in my life now and shit, right? But I have all this stress in my actual home environment of what I'm dealing with and shit, right? There's so much stress and so much pressure and shit, right? That it's just like it's hard to stay sober because I'm so stressed out and shit, right? But so then also because I smoke so much weed in my life and shit, right? Now it's like after I knock down those 3 ounces and shit, I start feeling the effects, right? It's like, okay, in a month, boom, you just knock down 3 fucking ounces and shit. And so it's like you start feeling the effects of the fucking residues in you and shit, right? So I like to sober up and to keep my fucking shit clean and shit, because really quick, if I went on a binge and smoked for like the next 3 months and shit, right, I would have a hard time breathing and shit, because that's how it is where I'm old now and it affects me. It's not like when I'm young. And it's like things like with like a bong and shit, right? I don't even smoke I haven't smoked out of the bong in fucking years and shit, right? Because it's like, it just, you take those fat tokes and the smoke gets too much in there. So I always use a pipe and shit. I don't like joints and shit. I always like pipes and shit, right? But anyways, why do I talk about that stuff? Now I'm sidetracked again. So I'll talk about being stressed out, and that's why I go off. And so usually, so when you hear me screaming at everybody and going off and shit, well, that's part of it's because I'm sober, and then also I'm wanting to kill a little bit of time and shit, and I enjoy it. It's fun. It's also fun. As I yell at people and stuff, I think it's funny and shit, right? And I think a lot of people find it funny and shit, right? And it's faster, it's more entertaining and shit, right? And screaming at it. So, but it's truth, I try and be as honest as I can, but I also am trying to mix it as entertaining. You do what you can and shit, right? But all this stuff, and then that's like my outlet, being sober and shit. That's kind of like what I do and shit, right? And I take it out on all them fools, because fuck them all, fuck all them and shit, right? Because that's what this, I'm like straight when I'm sober, I'm all fuck the world, fuck everybody.
Hey, bro,
I'm responsible for Chester Bennington's death. I remember.
Okay, or the Chester Bennington's death, because I say this because I also accuse, like, Flipping Steve. I said he's guilty of Chris Cornell's death, because what I showed these people is that Chris Cornell and like Chester Bennington, I showed these people that those people had interest in Michael Jackson. Like, as Chris Cornell did a cover of Billie Jean, and I showed Chester Bennington in the studio singing a Michael Jackson song, right? And this is what I showed them. I said, look this is like the butterfly effect. Like what they call the butterfly effect is like, if it's different, it's different. It's a butterfly effect. If it's different, it's different. If one thing is different, then your life is different. You're in a different spot in a different place and time. If everything's different and shit, right? So this is like the thing what I expose. Now, let me give you, like the Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, that, even though I had my story prior to their deaths, my story hadn't fully developed before they died. So that's like part of my fault, right? That I didn't develop my story to give them access to it before their deaths happened. Like that's what I'm saying is that through the access of my story, through that information, it's like a butterfly effect, could have changed their positions of where their life would have put them in the moments of time, which could have saved their lives and shit. And that's how the way I talk about it. That's why I say things like that, right? And so let's put it into the context, like right now, just recently, 2 people just died. Aaron Carter died and Lisa Marie Presley died, okay? So people that are directly really close to Michael Jackson, right? So if they had access to the true story of who Michael Jackson was, because like Lisa Marie Presley, she doesn't understand the relationship she had with Michael Jackson because she doesn't understand who Michael Jackson actually was. That Michael Jackson is the love child of Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, that he was told by Diana when he was 10 years old that he wasn't a Jackson, but he had to live under the umbrella of the whole Jackson family, like all of that stuff. And that's what happened with this personality trait. And that's what the song Beat It is about. The first, it's like, see, this is like what the song's, in the song Billie Jean, it says, Then every head turned with eyes that dreamed of being the one. And then so that's Michael. After Diana takes Michael to the room in her house, right? And then all the Jacksons, they're there. They're all there because they're living in her house. They're staying there when they first moved to LA and stuff, right? And so Diana takes Michael to the room, like it says in the song Billie Jean again. Like I said, this Billie Jean character is not a groupie of what they talk about. This is a different form of this character, of this Billie Jean character. Because it says, she came and stood right by me, then the smell of sweet perfume. This happens much too soon. She calls me to her room. Because Michael is young when the Jacksons first moved to LA. They're living there and they're staying in Diana Ross's house. See, she came and stood right by me because she's in charge. It's Diana Ross. She's the boss. Then the smell of sweet perfume, because it's Diana. It's a woman. She's this glamorous woman, right? She's more like a beauty queen from a movie scene, right? Which, in the movie that Diana Ross is filming at that time, is as Lady Sings the Blues, playing the character of Billie Holiday. That's where the origins of the Billie comes from, for the Billie Jean. But so, that's what it says. She calls me to her room. So that's what she's in charge, right? And it's her house. She calls me to her room. That's when she tells Michael the truth, that Diana was Michael's mother. But so as they come out of the room, then the song, it's not in this, then the line is not in this order, but this line's in there, and this is what they're talking about. He says, then every head turned with eyes that dreamed of being the one. So as they come out of the room, all their heads turned because they see Michael now. Diana's told. So Joe and Catherine know that that's not their child. And they see that Diana has told Michael the truth, and they're coming out of the room, and their heads turned, every head turned with eyes that dreamed of being the one. As Michael, because she's saying, Michael, you're the one. That's what it is. She says, I'm the one. And Michael's dreaming of being the one, as being the love child of Diana and Smokey. And his eyes are like in this dreamland, right? He's got these eyes that are dreaming of being the one. And their heads turn because now Joe and Catherine are like, uh-oh, what does this do for us? We're just signed to Motown. What about our family, the Jacksons, all the stuff? He's our child. We raised him. We done this. Now we got her trying to backstab us. And what's his house? So they're like, so then what happens? Then you get to the song Beat It. The first lines of the song Beat It says, they told him, don't you ever come around here. Don't want to see your face. You better disappear. The fire's in their eyes and their words are really clear, so beat it, right? So they told him, don't you ever come around here. So this is then the transition from when Michael is with Billie Jean, with Diana, and Michael is... he comes out of the room, and then the Jacksons, they see what's going on, but then the Jacksons buy the Havenhurst house, and they move in there, and Michael's living with the Jacksons. He's back as being a Jackson, right? And so what do the Jacksons tell Michael when they've got him back under their total control and he's in their house? They tell him, don't you ever come around here. Don't want to see your face. You better disappear. See, we don't want to see your face. That face that's got the eyes that are dreaming of being the one, the child of Diana and Smokey. They told him, don't you ever come around here, because they're telling him, you're a Jackson. You're not their fucking kid. You're our kid. We raised you. We're the ones that got you in the band. We're the ones that fucking did all this shit. This is our family, the Jacksons. You're part of our family. So they told him, don't you ever come around here. We don't want to see your face. You better disappear. That kid that you're thinking that you're their kid, you better disappear. The fire's in their eyes and their words are really clear, so beat it, right? So they fucking straight told Michael, beat it with your eyes dreaming of being the one, thinking that you're the fucking child of Diana and Smokey and shit. Boom, they laid it out to him straight. You're our child. You're under our control. You're still a fucking kid. And Joseph is mean and aggressive. And he's like, you tell anybody you fucking fuck this shit up, I will fucking kill you and shit, right? Joe was like that with him and shit, right? And then Michael is like, now he's been through that experience where Diana's like, I love you, I'll do all this shit. And now, boom, boom, bam, he's back with the Jacksons. And Joe's like, I own your fucking ass. You will do what the fuck I say. You were a Jackson. You know, he's like, they threw you out like fucking trash and shit, right? I'm the one. So that's the world and the dynamic of the situation where Michael Jackson had to live. But then Michael Jackson turned that into his mantra. He turned that into his mantra, the beat it. And Michael's like, oh, Beat it. You want me to beat it, huh? You want me to beat it? You know what? I will beat it. I'm going to become the best fucking entertainer that's ever fucking lived on this world. I'm going to beat all of you. That's what it says. Show them how funky strong is your fight. It doesn't matter who's wrong or who's right. Just beat it. Beat them all. So Michael turned that. He says, you want me to fucking don't show my face around here? You want me to beat it? You know what? I'm going to show my face. I'm going to show my fucking real colors. I'm going to beat all you motherfuckers. I'm going to become the greatest entertainer of all time. And not only did he become the greatest entertainer of all time, he fucking bought the music rights to the Beatles. So he became the owner of the Beatles, who's his competition of being the biggest, greatest entertainer of all time would be the Beatles and Elvis Presley and his in our fucking generation and shit, our era, but so those were the two other big ones, is the Beatles, Elvis, and then Michael Jackson, the three that became these super massive pop icons and shit, right? So what's Michael do? Not only does he become the biggest star, he wants to beat everybody in every way, become the biggest fucking undeniable thing. But also what that does is it stamps his legacy, where then that's why he wrote his true story down in his music, and he left it behind so that when he passed away, he knew that it being the biggest level of star of what he was, that's the only way that can enable somebody to go back and research his work and have true understanding of what it was that could actually then develop to express his true fucking story. But now that has happened, and it's happened in the lifetimes of where Diana and Smokey are still fucking alive. And that's why I scream at everybody to say, look at this shit's happened, and I know I'm right because the songs are telling the fucking story. Once you analyze it and you look at it through the fucking aspects of the true experience of the life of what my story tells, now you start looking at the songs and you start seeing that the songs are telling the same fucking story. And that's what I said, so that's what the Beat It is about. So Billie Jean is the biggest song, is the massive one, but then that transitions into Beat It, and so that's what the Beat It mantra. First it's about Joe and Catherine telling him to beat it, that he's not Diana's kid and shit, right? That he's a Jackson. They're telling him, get out of here, we control you and shit, right? But then you turn that into a mantra saying, my only path to freedom is to get away from you is to beat all of you, and that's my only way to separate. But it never worked. Because the fans were too stupid. Nobody understood his artwork and shit, right? So that was the dynamic of how does then Michael Jackson transitions from being the biggest star in the world of Thriller to being on the top of the fucking earth, being the top of the world, and then he doesn't even tour with Thriller, he tours with the Jackson's Victory Tour, right? So he's still got the connection with his family, and so you got to see that there's some kind of family dynamic there. Then Janet's about to explode and come on the scene, right? So then that would more entrench Michael back into the Jackson's family and bring him back into the umbrella of but it doesn't. Michael after that separates even more, and he's living in Neverland Ranch, and he's like calling himself Peter Pan and shit, and it's like, what the fuck is this what is going on? But that's what happened. After Michael becomes the biggest star, and he thought he achieved everything of what he thought he could have wanted to achieve, he achieved it. But then when he gets there, he realizes, damn, now I'm all alone. I'm not part of Diana's family. Diana's about to get remarried to Arnie Ness. She's having kids. She's being married. She's got all these relationships. So Michael's like, where's the love for me and shit, right? And Michael's definitely not like as being one of Smokey's kids. Smokey's just like whatever, however it is. And then the Jacksons are like, you've got to be, they want Michael to be part of him because he's the talent. Without Michael being part of the Jacksons connection, and without that connection, then who are they and shit, right? So that's why they want him, because they need him. And then the fans don't understand Michael's songs because Michael just told you who he actually was, and Billie Jean is known as one of the greatest songs of all times, and everybody's dressing up like Michael trying to impersonate him. They're all doing the Billie Jean fucking Motown 25 dance impersonation and shit, right? So that's what they all do. And so Michael's seeing all this stuff going on, and he's sitting back and he's like, damn. And then you got all the music critics, and you got all the song people, all the songwriters, like everybody, all the artists, everybody that was exposed to Billie Jean. And nobody understood it. Everybody just said, oh, it's about a groupie saying that he's the father of her child. And everybody just like accepted that that's what the song was about. But the song tells you, take my strong advice. Just remember to always think twice. Don't think twice. Do think twice. Ooh. But that's what he tells you. You got to think twice. You got to think deeper. This is much more shit. So that's what I'm saying. When I start talking about the Michael Jackson stuff, I just start rambling, going on. I already went too far. It's like I was going to do a video reaction to what they were talking about stuff, right? But this was happens when I started talking about Michael Jackson shit, and I've already went probably too long. Let me try one more time to play something, and then it's like, no, I didn't play anything that they said. I played the first little clip of them talking, and how long have I been talking now? Fucking way over 30 fucking minutes and shit, right? God damn and shit, right? Let me try to get one more thing.
Yeah, did you ever watch his Reckoning stuff? Yeah, did you?
No, I got sent the video once. I don't know who the dude is. I don't know anything else about him other than this one video that I was sent. And he went on to say that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's real mother, and Smokey Robinson is his real father, and this is my mission is to do this. And he starts screaming, every single day. I said, damn, he was just going in on somebody, and now for the next 20 minutes, he wants to tell me about Michael and how it's his mission every single day. And then he goes back to the person for the last 5 minutes to chew him out. This guy's a fucking legend, bro.
Yeah. So, Raul and I share this. I've watched enough of his stuff. He has good, like, he's not bad.
Okay, so I know that the time, it's not showing me how long I've been playing this video. I know I already went way too fucking long and shit, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off and stuff. But I know that LT, one of the things, he wants to know about the card things and stuff. So, like, with being a card, so, like, okay, so when I was a kid, 1983 tops. So, right, that's when I first start buying cards and shit. So, I'm born in 72. I'm about to turn 51 next month in April. So, I'm an Aries. I'm not going to tell you the exact day. But I'm an Aries and shit, right? But so, okay, so 1983 tops is when I first start buying baseball cards. I think they were like a quarter a pack and shit, right? And back then you enjoyed the gum. It's like you actually enjoyed. I wasn't worried about like back then, like when you first buying the shit. I'm not like the card being damaged by the gum. That's not even like a thought in my head and shit, right? Who gives a fuck and shit, right? I like the gum. I enjoyed the gum and shit. We actually liked the gum back then and shit, right? And but yeah, so I was buying 83 tops. And then I think what it was is because I had a friend, one of my friends, because it was me, my brother, and my one friend and shit, right? And that we would hang out most of the times, and so we were all buying 83 tops and shit, right? And then, but so that friend, his parents or his dad or whatever, they had season tickets to the Dodgers. So right, so we got to go to the Dodgers games. I'd probably go to like five games or so a year and stuff, right? Because he'd take my brother like some games and I'd go to some games. They wouldn't go to all the games and stuff, right? But once in a while, so my friend would go, and once in a while he'd take my brother, and once in a while he'd take me and shit, right? So I'd probably go to like 5 Dodger games a year and shit back then and shit, right? So somehow like that, somehow I probably got into the, but I was into sports. We all played sports, definitely I was all into sports and shit, right? And, but going to the Dodger games, and so I'm trying to remember like being around like why we started buying baseball cards, how it actually happened. I don't remember exactly. It wasn't like one of these, I hear all these other people saying, oh, I had a other uncle who fucking had cards, and it wasn't like that with me. I just somehow we started buying baseball cards because we were just like kids. It was like just a natural thing. It's being kids, being fans, going to the Dodger games and shit, right? And we started buying baseball cards. Like I said, they were probably like a quarter a pack or whatever it was, and we actually enjoyed the gum even back then. It was cool, but I liked the cards and with the players. It was cool and shit, right? So I had my little card collection, and then what happened, and then in 1984, I remember for a birthday present, I asked my dad, so my parents were separated. They're divorced and shit, right? So, my dad was never, raised me. He was never lived with me that I ever remembered and shit, because they divorced when I was young. But he was always around, on the weekend and dad and shit, right? But so on my birthday, then in 1984, I for a birthday present, I had my dad buy me the complete set of 84 tops, right? So I had a complete set of 84 tops. So then in 85, I had the same thing. In 85, I had my dad buy me again complete set of 85 tops. So this was at a local card shop. This is in Bellflower, California. I think it was called the Hall of Fame shop. It was right off of Woodruff and that's Alondra, I think. So if people know that area and shit, right? It was it was on the one side of the street. Down the street, there was a Kmart, but I think that's gone now. The Kmart's probably gone. But it was so it's as you're coming, I know as you get down the road, just before you get to the 605 freeway, because you're coming to Woodruff. Woodruff is pretty close to the 605. I think it's right there on Alondra. Then there's a bunch of stores. There was a grocery store right there on the left side. In there was some shops where there's a baseball card shop. That was the shop I'd go to when I was a kid and shit. The first that was before the 87 boom and shit, because then there was baseball card shops everywhere. And this is one of those things that but these younger kids, they don't know. It's like, and I saw this stuff happen with the baseball card boom, and I also saw it with the skateboard boom, when the skateboard thing boomed, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's skateboard shops all over the place, right? Where there wasn't like that. I also seen it happen with the arcades and shit, right? With the arcades. I also seen it, I can tell you with the VCRs, the VHS stores. At first those started with all the VHS mom and pop stores. They were everywhere and shit, right? Then you got the Blockbusters come in and shit. Then you got the big ones come in, and they take all those businesses from those people. So you see all those things. That's the thing about being older and watching these things develop and shit, right? And it's the same thing with the baseball card shops. And you see them all they all sprout up. Baseball card shops everywhere. And then a year later, boom, they're all fucking out of business. Same thing with skateboard shops. Skateboard shops everywhere. Year later, boom, they're all fucking out of business and shit. They all put each other out of business and shit, right? But so anyways, so in '85, I got the same thing. I got the '85 top set. So I had that set. So this is like how my baseball cards collecting starts and stuff. I'm just buying those stuff. I'm not trading with like friends. My friends hadn't really started buying cards. It was just like really me and my one other friend, but he didn't keep it up with the cards. It wasn't like anybody really was collecting it. It wasn't like there was a big collecting boom at that time and shit, right? But so we get into like '86, and I probably started buying some like packs in '86. Something happened, but then when it was like when that '87 top set came out with the wood border, and then you had the rookie cards, plus you had the future star cards, and then there was just a fucking explosive amount of rookies. There was just like, there was so many of them, right? And then so just 87 just went crazy with the sports cards. So I was all in it because I was already into the cards. So I was right there. And then one other thing had happened. There was this one other thing that happened. It was like right around that time, something. And then my other friends started getting into the cards too in that 87. Then everybody started getting into it and stuff. But one other thing that happened at that, I think around like in the 86 period, like I didn't buy the set of tops in 86. What I had bought also was the guy had packs of 100 cards from like 1974 and 72, the early 70s, cards like that for like 100 cards for $10. And so I had bought a couple of those, so I know I know I had that Thurman Munson, like in those cards. I had that Thurman Munson rookie and shit. I know I had one of those cards, and I had like a second year Mike Schmidt. So that was like 72 or 73. It was something like that. Whatever his rookie was the second year, like Mike Schmidt. And then so somewhere in there, then a while after that, I had looked at a Beckett. Then the first time where I looked at a Beckett, around somewhere in that time, I looked at a Beckett, and it said my Mike Schmidt, my second year Mike Schmidt card was worth $10, right? And I was like, whoa, $10? That's where everything fucking changed, right? And then it just went worth. That's when it became on the hunt. Then I was on the hunt for cards and shit, right? And then and that's where everything started. Then so it's like, then I was full onto it. Like I even went to one of those national card shows that were in Anaheim and shit, right? And yeah, I can tell you about this one of these funny card shows too, because I was going to card shows back then when I was young, and so I went to this one card show because people talk about like the Garbage Pail Kids, because the Garbage Pail Kids were huge, but like those Garbage Pail Kids, like their stickers, and people were sticking those things on their folders. Like kids, you saw those like in school, all the kids, you'd see lots of kids who would have Garbage Pail Kids stickers stuck on their folders and shit, right? So that's the kind of thing with like stuff like the Garbage Pail Kids. It's not like where like they talk about like baseball cards where kids put them in their spokes and shit, but it's not like where you peel it and you stick it and shit and then it's gone and shit, right? Where the cards are still cards. There's a thing about that and shit, right? But so the Garbage Pail Kids, the one funny thing about that was that I went to a card show right when the Garbage Pail Kids were huge, right? When they first started, because they got big instantly. They got big. I went to a card show, and half of the card show was Garbage Pail Kids. There was a sports card show, but half of the tables were like Garbage Pail Kids, and then it made me feel like, oh, there's a lot of that stuff, right? But it wasn't that there was a lot of it. It's just that there was the actual dealers that were dealing in that stuff. A lot of them were in that LA area and stuff, right? It's like one of those things. It's like people that were into it had it, but besides that, it was still pretty limited. I don't think it's crazy. I mean, I know there's a lot of it, but I don't know. There's something about that. So I never thought about it as being collectible and stuff, even though I knew it was popular and stuff, but there was a thing that I never really thought about the Garbage Pail, because I was always into the sports cards anyways and shit, right? But then, so like I said, see how I start talking about all these stories, man? It just goes on and on. But so like the common story, all the stuff I got out of the sports cards, and I was always checking back into the sports cards. I was looking back because I sold my collection. I needed money for a car so I could get a job and shit, right? And then that's like what happened. I sold my collection, got a fucking car, got a job, and you keep living your life and shit, right? But so as you go back and look through life, I was always going back and looking on my collection, and then it got exposed as I got older, and it got exposed as what the junk wax era was, right? So then all those cards because I had a good collection, I ended up building up a really fucking nice collection. I had the good stuff. I was hustling kids and hustling old people because you find it was so much fun and shit, right? It was so much fun and stuff like I bought a pack of 86 Don Russ baseball and pulled this is when the Jose Canseco was worth like $100 and shit, right? So I remember once at one of these card shops, bought a pack for like $5 or whatever, and I pulled a Jose Canseco out of it, so like I had one of those experiences, and at the time when I pulled it, it was like $100 card. It was a big card at the time when I pulled it, right? So I got to have one of those experiences and shit, got to do that shit. But so sold all my cards off, and so like I said, I'd go back and I'd look and I'd check and look at the prices. If I'd come across a Beckett, like in a card shop or in a magazine store, there might be a Beckett. I probably was doing that. Then the internet came out, and I would still check prices, and still even then, the prices never were going up. They were even low prices, and I still, even through all the times when I was checking, I never was exposed to the grading of the cards. I never had seen that. And then all my friends, as I got older, my friends were like into skateboarding and into music. We were smoking weed and skateboarding and into music and shit, right? They weren't into sports like the way I was. The people that were like all my friends and shit, right? They weren't really into sports the way I was, and so they weren't into sports cards. So I wasn't like being exposed to it and shit. I didn't have access. Nobody was updating me and shit, right? And like as I would check on it and stuff, I never saw like the refractors, and mainly because I was checking on my old card. I was checking on the prices, and then I never saw that the grading was happening because of that. So I never got exposed to that, and because I think I was only checking on my older cards and stuff, I never got exposed to all the refractors and shit and all that stuff, right? So then I ended up buying a big tub of cards from my neighbor for like $80, and like because I have a Kobe Bryant Soul of the Game card. I have one of those cards, and I pulled that card out of that tub of cards and shit, right? But I bought that card. That tub I bought a long time ago and shit. That was a long time ago. That was early 2000s and shit. And then still, I just had that tub. I wasn't collecting cards. And then the modern thing. So we moved up to the modern thing, and then so with the stuff, and I started seeing like the modern sales, these big card sales going on and stuff. And then so I started looking into it, and somehow I finally saw it. I saw the grading of the cards, and saw the refractors. I knew that the memorabilia cards was going on, because that's another thing. So like I have here, hold on, let me show you. Okay, see this? Okay, see this little box? And you see like the wear on it there? You know how much times I had to open and close this box to put that much wear on it and shit, right? Right, so this is my little weed box. I've had this since '95 and shit, right? Right, so I've had this box, and so I use this as that's my little weed box and shit, right? It's a cool little box that just like flops open at the top and shit, right? So I've had that ever since then. I still use it. It's still my cool little weed box. I keep, it fits perfect, like a pipe, a lighter, some weed and shit, whatever, a couple little things, that I need and shit, right? They'll fix it. It's a good little box and shit, right? So keep it, and it keeps it covered and shit, right? You keep your shit. So that's the thing too, is like, I grew up in the time where weed was illegal and shit, right? So I don't want my stuff like all exposed. I always got to keep shit like confiscated. You always got to keep shit closed, and that shit helps and shit. Like I remember one time I was in Long Beach talking like with LT. So like this is like one time, like after I moved away from LA, and then I'd moved back to LA, and I was staying with a friend in Long Beach, and he had a roommate with this woman that was married and shit, and he was living in that house. And then so we were in that house, and then we were smoking. I had just bought an ounce of weed, and so we were in the room smoking some weed, and I had taken a little bit of weed out of the bag, and then I took the bag because I just know this is like in the habit. So I took the bag and I put it in the drawer right there under right where we were smoking. There's a drawer there, so I put the ounce in the drawer, and there was just a little bit of like less than an eighth of weed on the dresser, whatever, where we were smoking, and there was a bong right there. And so then we're smoking weed and shit, and So we're in this house, and we don't know that my friend, his roommate, the married one, they had gotten a fight. We didn't know that they had gotten a fight while we were in there smoking. They were getting a fight. She called the cops, and the next thing you know, the cops are coming. We didn't know that the cops are coming. We're in the room smoking weed, right? So like I said, but one of the things, like I said, I'm in a good habit and shit, right, of putting stuff away and shit, right? So like I said, I'm in Long Beach and shit right there. But I'm in the ghetto part of Long Beach, right there on the border with Compton and shit. This is like a ghetto part of Long Beach too and shit, right? So so it was fucking one of these funny classic fucking moments, right? So my friend, he's got the bong to his mouth. He's like getting ready, like the pipe's loaded. He's got the bong to his mouth. He's just getting ready to fucking light it. He's just getting ready to light it. Like I remember, this is like one of those funny pictures I'll never forget. My friend's standing up there. He's got the bong in his mouth. He's just getting ready to light it, and a fucking cop walks in the room. Shit. Oh, damn and shit, right? Oh, that shit was funny. Yeah, shit. Some of those things I get sidetracked and shit. It's like, I was like, why start talking about that shit, right? I start talking about that now. I was like, what was I even talking about and shit, right? Oh, man. Okay, I know I've been talking long enough and shit, right? I know. I was talking about the cards and shit, right? So, yeah, I was talking about the box. That's why I said I'm talking about my friend, telling him his story about that we got caught. But yeah, so what happened? So then the cop walked in and busted my friend, and then there was a little bit of weed right there. The cops took the bong, and he took the little bit of weed on the counter, but the ounce was right there in the drawer, and he didn't open the drawer and didn't take it and didn't get caught for it. So then there was such a little amount, the cop just took it, didn't even give us a ticket. He just took it and left and shit, right? But if the ounce would have been there, which it would have been technically just under an ounce, because we would have smoked a little of it, because that's like the different things with the laws and shit, right? It would have been just under an ounce, but still, that's more, now you're doing with an ounce. That's a bag of weed and shit, right? So it would have been a different thing about what the cops, their reaction to it would have been different. And I saved my interaction there with the cops of having to get in trouble, because I was smart enough to know, put the bag in the fucking drawer, because the shit still is illegal, you know. And so I was just always in good habits of like that, because I've seen so many people get busted for stupid fucking shit. Stupid shit. And it's like, dude, you're already breaking the laws enough when you're doing this stuff. You're always doing stuff. It's like, you're already breaking so many laws. Why fucking do more stuff? Why risk it even more? So I was always real cautious and careful and shit like that, right? And so that was one of those things. It's just, so anyways, like I said, so yeah, like with the cards, I remember the memorabilia cards coming out, but I was never interested in those cards and shit. Like I said, I showed you with that box, and I remember the people using the micrometer and stuff, trying to measure the packs and stuff. I remember when all that shit was going on and shit, right? But I wasn't really into it because I didn't really care about the memorabilia cards. And I still hadn't seen the refractors. I wasn't really exposed to that stuff because that's the cool shit to me, you know? So like I said, so then just evolved and went over time where I wasn't into the cards and shit, right? And then the Michael Jackson thing, I've been doing that now for over 10 fucking years and shit, right? I've been doing, that's why I was so mad. But now I'm at the point where it's like, come on, I've got the information, and it's like, come on, I know I can prove the story, and it's an amazing fucking story and shit, and you just got to be strong enough to deal with it. You have to be mentally strong enough to deal with it. And the stupid thing, like, okay, like Shark, say I don't know your name enough, Card Shark, what I think your name is, whatever. You were talking about the Jacksons. I think you said, you're talking about Michael looking like Diana, and you said not before. He says, you know the rumors, but not before the surgeries and stuff, right? And so just you got to understand the dynamic of when the Jacksons went to Motown. My story is that Berry Gordy, because he was right there in the beginning of when they gave the kid away, so Berry Gordy knew that Michael wasn't part of the Jacksons. So everybody that was the key members of Michael being with the Jacksons, and the members at Motown that were important, so Smokey, Diana, and Barry and stuff, everybody knew that Michael wasn't a Jackson. So